Hey class, this is John Duncan, one of the professors in the Ethics and Leadership course and one of the project designers here. We've had a little bit of trouble uploading the PowerPoint show with narrations, but I've got the PowerPoint show on there for you. So I thought what I would do here is give you a few indicators of what I talk about in the PowerPoint show. It's pretty simple stuff. I'm a firm believer that we don't have to know everything about the history of ideas in order to use concepts or continue to use concepts that have been there for a long time and have been in use by thinkers for thousands of years. It's like 1 + 1 is equal to 2. Just because mathematics has gone a lot of different directions doesn't make that obsolete. Likewise, what Plato, Aristotle, and other thinkers throughout the history of ideas have said about ethical reasoning is not obsolete. We use it every single day. So I want to go over a few of these thinkers, give you an idea of kind of what you can use from them. You don't need to know when they were born, what the dates were and all that. You can look that up if you want. It's on the PowerPoint show. But mainly, we can look at Plato, 4th century BC. Plato in the Republic talked about two things that are important to us today. One is reason. He said that a healthy soul is rationally in control of itself. So someone who's healthy and psychologically balanced is going to guide their life through reason. He also believed that if we know the truth, and the truth to him was given to us through reason, that we can't but help act in accordance with that truth. So rationality, looking for a reason to act outside of my own emotions and my own desires, to act upon an ethical principle. That is what we're going to remember for Plato there. The second thing is he told the story of Gyges. Now, Gyges was a shepherd who found a ring. Gyges put the ring on his finger, turned it around, and found out he was invisible. So he started doing all kinds of bad stuff, and the question is, if you can get away with it, why worry about the morality of it? Simply, this problem has existed ever since. And the idea is that transparency is very important. So this is important for public officials, for example, in the government and so forth. It's important that we know what they're doing so that they're not able to act on their own self-interest. The other part of that is we need to internalize this. We need to have self-interest bracketed away as if everyone can see what we do. So even if you're by yourself, if you do the right thing, that's called integrity. So Plato was about rationality, transparency, and integrity. Just remember those three things: rationality, transparency, and integrity. You can use those to analyze any ethical argument. Aristotle comes along right after Plato. He's a student of Plato's, same era. And Aristotle tells us that, look, every situation is different. And so we don't know until we're in the situation where the extremes of behavior are. So a ship's captain that's out on the ocean and is faced with a storm and has a full load, back in those days this was a real problem, would have to jettison the load to save the crew if the storm hits. But the storm hasn't hit just yet. So if the captain jettisons the load out of fear too early, that's cowardice. If the captain decides, we're going to fight it, we're going to go through, and loses the whole ship, that's recklessness. So somewhere virtuous behavior is somewhere in between there. It's courage. So Aristotle says without the situation, you don't really know where those extremes are. So to judge what's right, you have to have the situation that it's going to be in exactly. All right, so that's important with Aristotle. That's called phronesis. It means practical wisdom. Phronesis, practical wisdom. And then centuries later, 17th century, Immanuel Kant comes along and he said, look, if we act only on that principle, which at the same time can be willed to be a universal law of nature, that's called the categorical imperative, and then we'll be acting ethically. So if we do that, then he considers our intention, as long as we act with a pure goodwill, pure intention, then we're going to be okay. Later on, John Stuart Mill came out and said, it's not necessarily. You can have the best intentions, but blindness to outcomes is an oversight. So what Mill said is it's important to forecast the greatest good coming out of what you do there. It's important to forecast the greatest good for the greatest number, or the best outcome, why don't we just say. So Kant said our intentions are important. So let's look at our intentions. Mill said the outcomes are important. So let's look at the outcomes. Later on in the 20th century, John Rawls comes out and with his A Theory of Justice, written in 1971. And Rawls said, look, fairness is justice. And we need to focus on equality of access to social goods. And so when we do something, we need to make sure that we're not cutting out people that have a right, just as much right as you or I have to that particular thing, like running for office or something else. The other thing is we kind of owe it to society to try to take care of the least well-off people. Now, that doesn't mean giving them everything. What it means is doing the best we can to kind of help them. Later, Joseph Raz comes out and he says, look, autonomy is the cornerstone of ethics. Autonomy is being able to have the freedom to make the decision, but if you do that, then you suffer the consequences, the responsibility of making a decision. And so, for Joseph Raz, what we find is that we have individual capabilities. Can I control myself? Can I forecast my life? Can I see myself in the future? Can I make decisions? Am I free to do these things? Am I capable to do these things? So that's the capability of being autonomous. On the other hand, I could have all those things and be in a prison cell and not have the ability to do them. So he says it takes two things. Not only do you have to have the ability to be autonomous, but you have to have the environment in which you can exercise those abilities. So if we look at it from those standpoints, it's, did you have the freedom to make the decision? Did we create an environment that was something that you could actually effectively make that decision in? So there's where we know about responsibility. So anyway, going over it real quickly here, you've got Plato that talked about reason being the guide and reason being in charge of all of our emotions and our desires and being able to override those. That knowledge of the truth is acting in accordance with virtue, and that we need to have transparency, or at least act as if everyone can see what we do, even when we're by ourselves. So that's integrity. So reason, rationality, getting away from self-interest, and integrity are the three things that we need to remember from Plato. Aristotle, situational ethics. Get in the situation, find out where the wrong extremes are, and choose the right one. Practical wisdom. Kant, focus on your intention. Did we have a good intention in this particular case study, for example? Did the company have good intentions, or were they trying to get away with something? Mill, what did we think the outcome was going to be? Didn't we have an idea of what we were trying to do and how it might affect the world and other people? John Rawls, was it fair? Did we let everybody participate, and did we try to take care of the ones that weren't able to? And then finally, Joseph Raz, were they free to actually make a decision? Were they capable of making a decision? And was the environment something in which there was more than one decision to be made? If there's only one decision, it's no decision at all. Sign this paper or I'll shoot you. You really don't have a great decision in there. So practical decisions are having a plurality of outcomes and a plurality of things that you can choose for different outcomes. So anyway, keep these things in mind as you read through all the other thinkers. This is a good foundation. Take a look at the PowerPoint show, and I believe you'll enjoy this course. I believe you'll enjoy some of the thought that we go through. Just remember, these are like tools in a toolkit. So what I've told you today, you can use these every day to analyze everything that you want to from an ethical standpoint. These tools are just as good today as they were when they were first thought up by those thinkers. I'm not trying to teach you how to be ethical. I'm trying to teach you how to think about things in terms of how people have thought about them that have been very influential in our notions and ideas of ethics. So this will enable you to do that. And I look forward to reading what you write and hearing what you discuss and seeing what you do on your videos. So thank you very much, and I hope you have a wonderful day. I'm getting out of here. Bye.